Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Against the Odds. So last week, we had an all-alternate win condition against the odds poll, and out of our various You Win the Game cards, it is probably the hardest one of them all that came out on top, Barren Glory in Modern, and wow, this card is super challenging to actually make work. I am not having high hopes for this one. Anyway, a quick reminder before we break down the deck. If you enjoy Against This Odds and you enjoy this Walls of Glory deck, take a minute, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk about this deck. And Walls of Glory, the glory part of the name, comes from Barren Glory, our namesake enchantment. So what we got here is a 6 mana enchantment that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, you win the game. That's pretty good, right? But there's some other text in between that makes it a lot harder. Not only do you have to play Barren Glory and get to your next upkeep, you also have to control no other permanents and have no cards in hand. So I think that Barren Glory might be the hardest You Win the Game card to build around. Other ones, they're all challenging. There's no easy You Win the Game cards, but this one is particularly hard because it is more expensive than a lot of the other options that are like 4 mana or 5 mana. Plus, the condition for winning the game requires a ton of building around. You actually have to find a way to not only wrath your entire board, and this is lands, this is artifacts, enchantments, and creatures, and that's part of the hard part of this. There's not really cards in Modern that just say destroy all permanents. So you have this natural deck building restriction based around how you're trying to clear your board. You can't play some card types. So that's part of the challenge. And then you have to get empty-handed, which is also tricky as well, although not as tricky by any means as getting your board completely clear of non-Barren Glory permanents. So how are we going about winning with Barren Glory? First off, we have Death Cloud. So Death Cloud is a sweet option with Barren Glory because it does both of the things we need. It makes us sacrifice X creatures, makes us discard X cards, and sacrifice X lands. So as long as we don't have non-Barren Glory enchantments or artifacts or planeswalkers on the battlefield, so if we can avoid those card types and cast a huge Death Cloud, we can win the game on our next upkeep by wrathing away everything. It also has the upside of wrathing away our opponent's stuff and clearing their hand. So if we resolve a Death Cloud with a Barren Glory on the battlefield, pretty unlikely that our opponent's going to be able to untap and kill us because they're going to have no lands, no cards in hand. So we're pretty much safe to wait till our next upkeep. The downside is it also makes each player lose X life. So it's possible that if we get beaten down in the early game by our opponent, we could find a time when we could win with Death Cloud, but wouldn't be able to because we would lose too much life. But the trick is we need to be able to Death Cloud where X is at least equal to the number of lands we control. So we can't rely solely on our Death Cloud and our lands. And if you've seen other Death Cloud decks, we played like Sakura Tribe Elder, we played Search for Tomorrow's, things to put extra lands on the battlefield, because that's the easiest way to break Death Cloud is just have more lands. But it doesn't work in this deck. We gotta have at least 3 mana coming from non-land sources, so we can wipe all of our lands with Death Cloud, or else Barren Glory won't win us the game. So we gotta have at least 3 mana from non-land sources, and those sources can't be artifacts, which are the most common ways to produce mana. You can't play Mind Stones or Signets because Death Cloud won't hit them, and then we have another permanent. So there's some tricks to it, but Death Cloud is one way we have to win with Barren Glory. Just huge Death Cloud, wrath our hand, wrath our board, wrath our lands, get rid of everything except for Barren Glory. The second way is super janky. It's actually a super good card, but the way we're trying to use it is super janky, and that is Karn Liberated. So Karn it has a ultimate that allows you to restart the game, and the other abilities on Karn exiles things. Exiles things from hand, exiles things from the battlefield. So, and those things start the restarted game on the battlefield as long as they are permanent. So the basic idea of this combo is we get a Karn on the battlefield, and we plus Karn, exiling Barren Glory from our hand, or from the battlefield if we have to, and then we plus Karn a second time, exiling a non-permanent, so some sort of spell, so it won't start on the battlefield, and then we ultimate Karn, and that will leave us in a position where the game restarts with a Barren Glory on the battlefield. And then the trick is we mulligan to 0, and if we mulligan to 0, we have no cards in hand, Barren Glory will trigger immediately, and we win the game. So I know that we're going kind of deep, and if you're restarting the game with Karn, there's probably all different kinds of ways to win the game, but this is one way we can do it. Ultimate Karn by exiling the Barren Glory. So the rest of the deck is the wall package. Walls of Glory. The walls are mana producers, essentially. So all of our stuff is really expensive. Barren Glory is expensive. We talked about how you need 3 mana from non-land sources for the Death Cloud combo. Karn is really expensive. So the way we're getting all this mana without using artifacts or enchantments to disrupt the Death Cloud kill is walls. So normally when you see mana dorks in Modern, they're like Birds of Paradise, Land and War Elf type cards, 1-drop mana producers, Noble Hierarch, but those cards only tap for 1 mana. If we go with the wall package, we have some walls that can tap for a ton of mana. So Overgrown Battlement, for example, adds a green mana for each creature we control with Defender. We have 16 creatures with Defender, so it's often tapping for 2, 3, 4 mana. Axebane Guardian, same way, except it adds mana of any color. So we have 2 walls that can potentially tap for a whole bunch of mana. Wall of Roots produces a mana, good blocker. Sylvan Caryatid, hard to kill because it has hexproof, produces a mana. So basically on turns 2, 3, maybe 4, we want to be playing as many of these cards as possible. This ramps us into our Barren Glory. Also gives us that 3 extra mana we need for Death Cloud kill. Also gets us to Karn quicker. Plus, since they're walls and have Defender, they have pretty high toughness, so we're pretty good at blocking Goblin Guides, Wild Nakados, things like that, even just chump blocking big things. And this hopefully will buy us the time to get the Karn combo, because with Karn, you gotta wait a couple turns of plussing before restarting the game. So hopefully by using these walls, we'll be able to kind of keep our opponent's attackers at bay while we ultimate Karn. So walls are the key part of the deck. It's how we hopefully will cast all this expensive stuff in a somewhat timely manner. The rest of the deck, we have Increasing Ambition and Dark Petition. They're just tutors. They can find our Barren Glory. They can also find whatever combo piece we need. So if we have the Barren Glory, we can get the Death Cloud. If we don't have enough mana for Death Cloud, we can get the Karn, go on that plan. Basically just ways to find what we need in any given situation. Then we have some spells, and these cards do double duty. They help us disrupt our opponent, for one thing. That's why they are normally in a deck. But also, we need some spells to exile with Karn for the Karn kill. So Thoughtseize, Inquisition, Path to Exile, they give us stuff to play on turn 1, which is nice because all of our ramp starts on turn 2. But they also are cards that we can exile with Karn. We exile Barren Glory, then exile a Thoughtseize. When we restart the game, our only permanent will be the Barren Glory, then we do the combo kill. So they're also important for that reason as well. As far as the mana base, we get some fetches, we get some shock lands, we get some basic lands, we get an Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth to make everything swamps, and some Shambling Ventus creature lands. As far as the sideboard, get all the good white hate cards, Rest in Peace for Dredge and Snapcaster decks, Stony Silence for Affinity and Tron, Leyline of Sanctity for Burn and other things that target us, Path, Abrupt Decay, and Dismember give us some more early game removal in aggressive matchups, and then another Thoughtseize and a couple Fulminator Mages to fight against Tron and creature lands. And that is Walls of Glory for Modern, and that's our instant deck tech deck for this week. So is this going to work? Oh, I am not convinced. I think we can make a lot of mana. It's going to depend on us drawing our cards in the right order. We will probably have some games where we just don't draw the right pieces. Hopefully having the tutors will help, being able to Dark Petition or Increasing Ambition for whatever piece we're missing. Hopefully that will be enough to allow us to win the game, but it's going to be somewhat challenging. Barren Glory is just so expensive, so slow, and has such a big deck building restriction. I really think this is the hardest you win the game card to actually win the game with, probably in all of Magic. I can't think of another one that competes with this as far as just how much it warps your deck to build around it and how challenging it actually is. So, I don't know. I think this is one of those against the odds where hopefully we will get the win eventually. On the other hand, I could imagine winning a game here and there just because of Death Cloud or Karn. Even if we don't have Barren Glory, those cards can be pretty powerful. But that's not what we're going for. The goal is to get the Barren Glory kill, not just to get a kill. And I think we have the tools to do it. We're just going to have to run into the right matchups and draw our cards in the right order. If we can just go like turn 2 Overgrown Battlement, turn 3 X-Bane Guardian, turn 4 Barren Glory, turn 5 Death Cloud, that's a kill right there. So we have combinations of cards that we can draw if we're not disrupted to just win the game really quickly. So hopefully that'll happen sooner or later. We will see. Anyway, that's Walls of Glory for Modern, and that's our Against Odds deck for this week. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon.